Okay. Sorry, just a little bit of background about me. I'm an undergrad in economics. I did my master's at Cornell in hotel. And I was studying revenue management under Sherry. Revenue management was a perfect marriage of hospitality and economics. So it's a huge amount of passion that's in there. Worked with, my family company. We had 40 restaurants and 3 hotels when we sold in India. That's Nirula's up there. I was looking after revenue Asia Pac for Conrad. See the white hair, it was back in 2006, so a long time ago, but still doing that. Do my own consulting in the revenue space. RevMax, we rebranded ourselves to Mavericks. I teach, I've started SIT, as well as I teach exec MBA at SP Gen. And I'm currently, my day job is running a chain of preschools globally. I have 60 schools across US, UK, India, and China. So, by the way, the competitive assessment framework works for schools as well. So I'm not kidding when I say it goes multi-industry. So, a little bit of interaction. If you could all log into menti.com. Code is up there. Do you ever wonder, and I just want to see about how many of you wonder about any of these. So what do you wonder about? Evidently, no one's wondering right now. Loading. Oh, no. You know, if the tech doesn't suit us, we'll do a quick show of hands and go non-tech on this. So no worries there. Good. Ooh, so does your price reflect the value that customers receive from your product? No, now it's gone to, does your price allow you to capture the business that will earn the most revenue? No, back to the first one. And does your price make sense relative to the competition? Okay, perfect. So these are sort of the 3 questions we will be trying to address with what we're going to be doing today. So when you think about competitive value assessment to find the price, 3 essential things when you think about pricing. A, the buyer must be willing to pay it. B, the seller, that's you, must be willing to offer it at that price. And third, of course, is your competitive set is allowing it to be charged in the market. So let me put that in simpler terms. I say, hey guys, I have an iPad for sale, right? Right here, second-hand iPad, who wants to buy it? I say, so you guys say, okay, looks like an old iPad. I'm happy to pay $100 for it, right? 100. Are you all agreeing? You want to buy my iPad for 100? Pallavi, on the other hand, the seller, is only willing to accept 200. So do you think we'll be able to make a deal here? No, right? Because I want 200, you want to pay 100. Not going to work. Okay, so that's not going to work. But I listen to you guys and I say, okay guys, that's fine. You want it for 100. I'm in an ultra generous mood today. I'm going to sell it to you for 100. Yeah? No one please take me seriously. I'm going home with my iPad. No. But you want it for 100, I'm going to sell it to you for 100. And then Jackie pops up, thank you, Jackie, and says, guys, I'm offering my iPad, the same one, for 50. Where are you all going to go to? Jackie. So in order for a transaction to happen, all these 3 things must be there. Yeah? So the price the buyer is willing to pay, what the seller is willing to accept, and thirdly, it has to make sense relative to the competition, right? So that's what. So invariably, when we talk about pricing, we're looking at it very internally when we're talking about pricing in a hotel. We may do a little bit of analysis of demand, what are people willing to buy, And we're looking at competition, but it's very rare that we look at all of them together. So my aim with the template you're going to be downloading in a few minutes, and thank you to those who brought their computers, is that you will be able to combine this together and see if that makes sense. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is benefits and costs. Yeah? Benefits are what customers think of as a gain, what they're getting from your product. What are they getting from you? That's a benefit, right? So for example, continuing with the iPad example, I'm selling you the benefit of having a device in your pocket, not in your pocket, in your hand, on which you can relax and watch your movies, etc. Netflix, yes, Netflix. Costs are what customers perceive as a loss, right? Both in terms of them giving up something in terms of monetary value, but other things as well. So what are other things? It could be lack of convenience, time, exactly. So those are all considered as costs. So now value is benefits divided by costs, yeah? So if your benefits go up and your costs go down, that's when you see your customers getting more value. Any questions here? Does that make sense? Yep. I can see some nods, more nods. Otherwise, I'll go on. No. Okay, more nods. Good. Sorry. Now, interesting. Value is subjective. What is valuable for me is different. What is valuable for you is different. What is valuable for you? It's subjective. It's very personal. Now, value is a benefit, but not all benefits are valuable. Can anyone tell me what they understand by that? Anyone? Can I give you the value of an espresso? Go ahead.
Internet
yeah?
in a hotel, it should be there.
Yep.
But it's a benefit, but not valuable anymore.
Understood. Yes, exactly. So it is a benefit. It's a requirement now, almost. Actually, it's interesting you brought up internet because I'm going to use it later. But it's not valuable anymore. And benefits have different values for different customers, right? You may value internet more than you do, correct? Because you're in for, and I'm using hotels here, for a spa weekend, and you only want a massage, and you really want the internet, actually you're hoping it closes down, because you can tell office, I'm sorry, I was not able to connect to my laptop, right? You're like almost praying that internet goes down because that's a great excuse, and you still seem like the best person on earth who's trying to not do the work-life balance, do work-life balance, not life-work balance. Yeah, so it forces you to go from work-life to life-work. So what price? Now coming back, because at the end of the day, I've gone into value and benefits, and yes, it's definitely customer-centric, but do remember, we run a hospitality business, yeah? If it doesn't make sense for us, if we cannot sustain it long-term, there's no way that we can make this run. So yes, we may be able to price it underwhile for a little while, but if we're not covering our costs, right? And if we're not aligning our pricing with our brand, then long-term, we're going to fail, right? Because sometimes, and I'll give you an example. This is an example from actually SARS. So again, going back to the white hair. There was a period when obviously demand, I think it's before many of your time, but very similar to COVID, not so bad. But there was a period in time when demand went down so low that occupancies were running at 8%, 9%. Occupancy was still there. And there was a whole conversation we had. I was working with Conrad then. And there was a whole conversation we had about how low we should drop our prices, right? How low should we go? I mean, technically, we could have gone right down to the bottom. But then we decided that long term, if we brought our prices down, people who wanted to travel would travel. Price wasn't an attraction, right? And if we brought our prices down so low, long term, the issue that we would have both in terms of the value on the brand, because we would go down to being a very inexpensive brand, right? The customer profile in our hotel would change. It would be very hard to get the original customers back. Secondly, we wouldn't be covering our costs. So it actually made more sense to close down floors and turn off the aircon and turn off a lot of that stuff and many other things in terms of managing costs. Completely different conversation. So again, I want to remind you is that when you're doing this value assessment, because you will be doing it hopefully, please be careful to make sure that you're not going super low in price as well. There is a price that you need. You need to make sure you're covering your costs. So that's something you need to be aware of. You need to make sure you're not hampering your brand. Yeah? And again, in terms of be flexible during low demand periods, but make sure that your peak times you're holding up. So flexibility also comes in, again, outside purview of this course. When you're being flexible with your pricing, make sure you have proper rate fences. I think you heard Sherry talk about fencing. Make sure you have fences that justify the reason for your price going down. So, what is competitive value assessment? It's a strategic tool that compares your competitors' product and value and quality and price to yours, fundamentally. That's all it does. It looks at what is it that your competition is offering, what are the various things that your target market is interested in, and accordingly it looks at price, and we'll go through that. So, in order to do a competitive assessment, we have 5 steps. 1, who are your customers? 2, determining your competitive set. 3 is identifying your attributes. 4 is assigning weights to attributes. And 5 is rating your competitors. And we will now be doing this step by step over the next few minutes. Okay, the first step in a competitive value assessment is to think about who is your customer, right? Extremely important. Fundamentally, for each type of customer, you should have a different competitive value assessment. That's an important thing. It's the one-line target market that comes up on the top. So please remember, ideally, you should do a different competitive value assessment for each customer. Now, market segmentation is completely out of the purview of this course, but typically you would segment your customers by their booking and by their purpose of travel, right? The 2 ways that you would end up segmenting them. For example, what are some of your typical market segments in a hotel? Who wants to answer me? Who wants to answer? Anyone? What are your typical market segments in a hotel? Lady Gaga customers. Thank you, Jackie. Anyone else? What else? Corporate, right? And name me another. Wholesale. Now, do you think what a corporate customer looks for is similar to what a wholesale customer looks for in a hotel? Is it similar, or do you think it's different? Different, right? So that's extremely important to understand that when you will be doing your competitive value assessment, please do one for each different market segment, because this looks at your attributes, what your hotel is offering. Yeah? Oops, I should have brought that. So that's step 1. Now, part 2 is determining your competitive set. So let's go back to our spreadsheet. So we've decided this. So far, all we've done is we've decided that one cell there. What is your target market that you're doing this for? That's what that whole slide was about, each target market. The next is to decide who to put in here. Are there any restaurants or event space? Anyone? F&B or event space? There were some here, I think. So again, same, it says hotel, you would put your restaurants in, right? Who is your competitive set? So let's go back to a little bit of here. So this is what we're dealing with right now. So now, another thing to remember, your competitors will vary by market segment. Right? Do you think that's true? Who thinks that's true? Let's do a show of hands. Who thinks that's true? Okay. So some of you, I would say around 35% think that's true. That means 65% of you don't think that's true. Somebody who doesn't think that's true, tell me why. I want to learn. Or am I converting the other 65 to my 35? Yes? No? Do you think it's true? Yes? Everyone's now. See, this is the best way to get buy-in. Yeah? So your competitors vary by market segment. Who's offering similar facilities and services that cater to that target market? Who do you lose business to? Right? If a wholesale group is coming in, who's your competitor? Your competitor for wholesale market may be very different for your competitor for a corporate market. And where would your guests go if they do not go here? Now, extremely important when you're doing this is to be realistic and not aspirational. What do I mean by that? Say, and I'm thinking back when I was at Conrad, and I said, oh, if my guests don't come to Conrad, they stay at the Raffles. No, not really. That's not. That's me being aspirational out there, right? You have to be realistic about it. Where would they actually go? Where would they stay if they're not staying there? Now, in terms of a typical set, so if you saw, I think there were 7 spaces on the spreadsheet. Your typical set, ideally, you should have somebody, 1 hotel better than you, 1 hotel worse than you, and 3 to 5 hotels who are similar. That's a good set to define. So when you're putting this together for your hotel, that's a good way to define the set. Okay, and correctly determining who are your competitors for each market is crucial to this. Now, tip here. You know you can look at your OTAs, whether it's Expedia, Booking.com, see who they think is your competitive set. You know you can log into the portal and see who your competitive set is because they look at how you're comparing, what people are looking at. So that's also an interesting analysis when you're coming up with your competitive set. Because I know invariably for hotels, your competitive set is determined by what is in your management contract that's been decided by the owners. It's given to you. So I'll go back when I was at Conrad and we were doing this analysis, we would do one, we used to call it the owner's comp set value assessment. But then we did a completely separate one, which was how we looked at what hotels we were competing at for each target market and did a value assessment based on that. Yeah? So yes, you will most probably have to do one on the chosen competitive set, but I would spend some time for you to go in and think about what is happening in your hotel. And I'll share an example with you here. For example, you were a typical business hotel, right? In a city location. And your competitive set was ABC. Suddenly, last year, you launched a new spa. And you're now catering to a different market as well. Your competitive set for the spa guests may include a Hotel D, which was not part of ABC. So again, you need to look at it from your customer's eyes. Customer centricity, we spoke a lot about that, and it comes really important when you're doing your value assessment, is you need to look at it from the customer's eyes and see if I was booking, and me, Pallavi, was booking, and I am in a certain target market segment, who else would I stay at? Not who else has been defined in the management contract to be part of my comp set. Yeah? So again, from the customer's point of view, you need to look and see who would your competitive set be. So going back to your spreadsheet for a second, this is where you would fill in the names. So again, remember, you should try and aim with 1 hotel that's better than you, 1 that is worse, and around the rest being around same level as what you're offering. And obviously, just fill in the details on their number of guest rooms and their room rate. Yeah? Their average rate, which we all know for everybody, even though we shouldn't know, but we know. Yeah? Any questions so far? Yes, ma'am.
When you say room rate, which rate will it be? There are so many rates.
The rate for that target market.
But
Good question.
for
For that
example,
segment.
for city view room, will it be a fenced rate, unfaced rate?
So you're also looking at a room type. So so normally when I did this analysis, I would do my unrestricted rate.
Or unrestricted?
Unrestricted rate, right? That's an easier, sorry, I didn't understand the question first. So it's your unrestricted rate. What's important, and that's a good question actually, because it's just got me thinking, what's important is consistency. So if you're using your unrestricted rate, please make sure everyone's room rates are unrestricted. If you're using your fence rate, make sure everyone's rates are fenced. Yeah? I mean, you could do this in multiple. Maybe you're on the unrestricted rate, you're doing better than the other hotels, but on the fence rate, they're doing better. So you could do that analysis as well to see if there's a difference. Yeah. So we have now filled out, or we should hopefully have filled out this part, yeah? Is anyone actually filling this out? Because I'm happy to chat through with you further on that.
Does anyone need the QR code?
Yeah? So now, the top part and this whole competitor part we have sort of addressed. Does anyone have questions around that? Do you all understand how to fill that part out? Yep. Is anyone filling it out? Because I'm happy to look. And I don't like looking behind because I feel like I'm in class. Oh, good. And then I'm like, why are you on WhatsApp? No, I'm kidding. Yeah? Okay, yeah. Some of you are filling it out, so I'll let you do a little bit of work around there. And again, I'm just reiterating, there was a very good question about what sort of room rate you should use, right? So if you're using unrestricted rate for yourself, make sure it's everybody's unrestricted rate for that market segment, right? If it's fenced, make sure it's fenced for everybody. Consistency here is key because you want to compare apples with apples. Okay. Any questions on step 1 or step 2? Is everyone clear? Now the third one, identifying attributes. Yeah? What are attributes? Attributes are things that guests value. Hugely, hugely, hugely important to think of this from a customer perspective. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. And I'm going to actually use F&B here for this example. So say you've recently had a little bit of an upgrade in your cutlery or plates in your restaurant, right? You've done some research, you have a fine dining restaurant, you've done some research and you found that the clientele normally likes white plates with a silver border and a specific style of cutlery, okay? And you have spent whatever, $30,000 or some such number on it. And in your head, that is an attribute. You've spent money on it. You feel that that's what customers, based on your research, that's what customers are looking for. What's extremely important is to listen to your customers. Does anyone even talk about your cutlery and your crockery? If they don't, it's not an attribute. Does that make sense? Because I remember when we when we were doing this the first time, one of the hotels said, oh, we've just recently upgraded all our bed linen. That's an attribute. And I was like, no, has anyone mentioned our bed linen in why they look for our hotel? If no one does, it's not an attribute. Okay? Extremely important to remember that. TripAdvisor, Google reviews. That's where you hear what your customers are talking about. Talk to your front desk. Talk to your servers in your restaurant. Because they're the ones who know what appeals about your property. Because again, the whole point of this is not to look at these points, the strengths, from the perspective of what you think are your strengths. You need to look at it from the customer's perspective. Okay? So another thing I wanted to share, this exercise is the most valuable when you do it with your team in your hotel. You pull in front office, you pull in F&B, you pull in different types of people, you pull in your sales team. Your sales team also knows. Remember the amazing sales team that we're keeping after yesterday's conversation? Your sales team knows what customers like about you. So you sitting, and I'm assuming many of you here are revenue people or in the commercial side, but you sitting and doing this yourself on a spreadsheet, to be honest, the spreadsheet is a capturing board of all your views. So for this part of putting this together, the most important part is getting everyone's feedback in. And please make sure that the guest is seated in the room. If your hotel has done surveys, look at your guest scorecards, all of that information, look at the comments, see what people are complimenting you on. Why are people staying with you? Those are the attributes you need to focus on. Yeah? Same for your competitors. You look at your various review sites, you'll see what people like about your competitors. What is important for your guest, not what you think what is important for your guest. Yeah? So it's interesting how life changes. When I'd first done this is again back in the early 2000s, Wi-Fi was considered an attribute. Would anyone put that as an attribute today? No, right? It's just assumed it's there. So that something as simple as that. But would any of you operate a hotel without Wi-Fi? Would anyone? Does anyone operate a hotel without Wi-Fi? How to? Exactly. Right? It's just assumed it's there. And that's why I used the example of linen and cutlery and crockery. For a guest, it's supposed to be there. Right? I mean, you wouldn't say, here are leaf plates, enjoy your meal. So these are things, so it's really important to look at it from a guest perspective. Does the guest value it? If there's one thing I want you guys to get out from the attributes part is, please look at it from the guest perspective. Try to understand if the guest values it. And be objective about your own property. Be honest. Is it actually really good? If you were a guest, would it be good? Right? So be honest. And also include attributes which are strengths of your competitors. Just because you don't have it doesn't mean do not include it as an attribute. The fact that it's important to your guests makes it an attribute. Yeah? So just because you don't have, say, a rain shower in the spa, but a rain shower is essential for your guests, include it as an attribute, because that's something you should be getting, because if that's essential for your guests and it's helping them make their buying decision, then you should get it. Right? So just going back to the spreadsheet for a minute so you guys know where I am. Sorry. So these are the attributes. So these, of course, are the quality of the guest rooms, the location of the hotel, whether there's a pool, whether there's a restaurant, the quality of service, lobby, fitness center. Yeah? So again, these are very generic attributes. My honest feeling is that when you're doing this analysis, please be more specific, because you will get The more value, the more specific you are, the more value you will get out of this sheet. Okay. Moving on to the, sorry. So this is an interesting template on when you're thinking about attributes, VRIO. V, is it valuable? Yeah? Is it valuable? When you're thinking about an attribute, that means, do your guests value it? Right? So Wi-Fi, technically not valuable, it's a must-have. R, is it rare? Yeah? Is it rare? Are you the only one? But rare doesn't only mean are you the only one. Rare also means is there more demand than there is availability. Okay? So is it rare? Is it, and I always need to look back to pronounce this, inimitable. Yeah? That means is it unique and cannot be imitated? If you have something like that, that's amazing. Because then other people cannot copy you, cannot imitate you. And finally, extremely important, is it organized? Are you able to actually leverage that attribute? If you're not able to leverage it, really no value. So if it's not valuable, it's a competitive disadvantage. If it's valuable but it's not rare, then it's competitive parity. That means everyone has it, nothing unique. If it's valuable, it's rare, but it's not inimitable, then there's a temporary competitive advantage. That means for a little while, you have a competitive advantage, and then other people will copy it, and you will lose that advantage. If it's valuable, it's rare, it's inimitable, but it's not organized, it's an unused competitive advantage because it is a competitive advantage you have, but you're not able to leverage it because it's not organized properly. And finally, if it's all four, then it's a sustainable competitive advantage. Yeah? So this is just another way of looking at your attributes as well. And your aim is to have it valuable, rare, inimitable, and organized. And for what? For things you like? No. For things that your guests value. For things that are important for that target market that you're talking about. If you get this going, it'll make life a lot easier for you, and you will be able to charge a lot more. So going back just to the iPad example, right? $100. You agree, I agree. Jackie said 50. Ugh, whatever. Jackie's out of the room. So then I suddenly say, you know, for the $100, I will give you a case originally signed by Lady Gaga. Yeah? Suddenly, I'm offering you something that's rare. Yeah? No one else can copy it because only I know Lady Gaga. No, I'm kidding. But what I mean to say is you suddenly build up the value, and suddenly my price, you would rather pay me 100 for the same technical Apple product than you would pay Jackie 50 because I've added something in. Extremely, extremely important to think about here. What you're offering your guests, ideally, should be a value to them and not a cost to you. That's the perfect situation. It should not really add as a cost to you, but it's a value for them, right? Here, a signature, easy. It didn't cost me anything. I didn't go to the concert. No, I'm kidding. I didn't see Lady Gaga, just before everyone's wondering. But I just caught her down while she was shopping wherever she was, and it didn't cost me anything. But it was huge value to whoever wanted to buy it, yeah? So remember, when you're thinking about attributes as well, value to your guests, hopefully not a lot of cost for you. Because again, going back, we're in the hospitality business. If it's not sustainable, it's not doable. Any questions so far on attributes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, please.
So what about all these generic, boring hotels? Will it be only about price? So the lowest price always wins.
The lowest price always wins. But do they have a long-term sustainable customer? So now think long-term business. So yes, today, generic, boring hotel, which none of the ones here are, yeah, lowest price always wins, right? Tomorrow, a newer, shinier, generic, boring hotel will come,
Yeah.
also using the same strategy. Where do you think the guest will go?
The new one.
The new one.
Yeah.
So
So
is
they
the
have a
generic,
competitor.
boring hotel with always lowest price, will that be a sustainable business? Will it even be in business a year from now?
Probably not.
Exactly.
Well, no, it will. It still will be in business because the travel and tourism industry is growing by 4 to 7% every single year. So it's a constant flow of travelers coming into a destination. So they will probably suffer, but
They will suffer, for sure.
still be in business.
They will hopefully still be in business. Will they be maximizing revenue? No, not at all. Will they be in business 15 years from now? I don't know. Probably not. Maybe next year, yes. So again, a lot of those hotels where your customer is not connected to your property, the customer feels no emotional connect, and I spoke about that yesterday. Your attributes is one of the ways to make an emotional connect with your customer, right? If you want to connect with your customer at emotional level, because your aim is, and I think yesterday there was a conversation about CAC, cost of customer acquisition, cost of guest acquisition. It costs you a lot of money to get a customer into your door and then to lose them. I mean, that's just money constantly being spent. So generic, boring hotel, which competes on low price, is constantly spending money on getting customers into their door, right? And if new generic, boring hotel with even lower price comes into play, then all the customers would go there. So you end up losing them. Also, we're in hospitality. There's a service element included. Sorry, I had to put that in. Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Anders. That was a good question. Anyone else? Everyone's agreeing with me. Wow. No one wants to challenge. Okay. So, name some attributes your guests, let's do a little bit. So again, if you could code that in. And I'd put HRE, H being for hotels, R being for restaurants, E for event space, but looks like most of you here are hotels. So name some attributes that you think your guest thinks are important. Okay, room size. Room size is a good one, yes. Facilities. Okay, let's get a few more, then we'll talk. Bed size. View, club services, facilities, event space flexibility, view, hotel credits, location, location. One more location, please. It's always said 3 times. Be recognized. Location, thank you for that. Facilities. Okay, so I have a question for you. When you think of bed size and room size, good, all of these are good. There are many, many more, but all of these are good. When you think of room size and bed size, one more thing when you're thinking of your attributes, would your guest pay more for them? Right? Important to remember that. Would somebody pay more for a slightly larger bed? I don't know. It depends on your consumer market. I really don't know the answer to that. It's not a generic answer. But that's an important thing to think of. View as well. And I know from a revenue perspective, we sometimes do city view and higher city view. There's no ocean view. You know, you kind of play with it. Fountain view or city view is, yes, that helps us break our product down, helps us hopefully get in a margin. But will your guest actually pay for more for that? So you have to think about it from the guest's perspective. Yeah? F&B offerings, multi-bay, okay, room lighting, blackout blinds. Blackout blinds, another good one. Would somebody pay more for that? I think there was a talk about somebody who was sleeping over the weekend. And blackout blinds would play in there really well. Room lighting, kids club. Yes, kids club is one where if you're traveling as a family. So now if you're doing, now here's where one more thing comes in. If you're doing your business target segment, right? Where it's a business person traveling for a meeting, and you say, okay, my attributes of my hotel include a kids club. Please do not include kids club when you're talking about your business travel segment, because unless you have parents traveling with kids for work, and that's your market, unless that's the situation, chances are it's not a valuable attribute. So it may be an attribute of your hotel, but it won't be a valuable attribute there. Pet friendly, interesting, maybe interesting for certain target markets, not for others. So again, your attributes also will change by target market. Okay? Amenity, okay, I will go on. Now you guys have got the gist. Now, the next step, step 4, we need to assign weights to our attribute. Yeah? Sounds all scary. No, it's not. It just means what is more important for who? For our customer. Yeah? So it reflects how much each factor influences the buying decision. Again, this is something that you can get from looking at your reviews, looking at feedback that your in-house staff gets, yeah? Because not all attributes matter the same to your guests. They prioritize stuff. So for example, going back to the sheet, here you can see that guest rooms and the availability of the restaurant and the location of the hotel are equally important. 60% of a guest's buying decision comes from these three. You understand how I did that? So 20, 20, 20. So these three things are all extremely important when a guest is making a decision on which hotel to choose. Then comes your, pool. After that is service and fitness center, and finally is lobby. Yeah? Yes, Anders.
A comment.
Yes.
When you specify the attributes, shouldn't you be more specific? So like guest rooms, it's like large guest rooms, so location close to the convention
Agreed.
center, and because
Agreed.
otherwise it's too generic.
I completely agree with you. I did say that. No, so I did say that in here it's a bit vague. When you're doing it in the spreadsheet, I would prefer you to be a bit more specific.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, please, but
Thank you.
definitely.
Why don't we just ask customers do this instead of management?
If you get customers to do it, well done.
I'm a researcher, so yes.
No, if you can get it, amazing. Seriously, which is why I
Just
say,
a simple survey, like what is your purpose of travel, and can you rate these attributes?
Yes.
Simple.
Perfect. Or what are the 3 most important things for you, rather than even rating?
Yeah.
If you get that, that's brilliant, which is why I say otherwise talk to your teams on the ground who are communicating with the guests, because they will hear about what it's. Yes, please. Yes, of course.
It's just on my. Yes. It's so close to my heart, right? Yes. Thank you for bringing this up. I mean, this is where some of these tech solutions, like some of the CRM providers, right? They have these amazing little surveys that you can send out to guests, right? And you can say to certain personas, and it doesn't take a lot of time, and it gives you exactly these answers. So I just encourage you, when you look at these solutions, don't think always really big picture, think small picture sometimes as well. And how can you use that to bring a puzzle together? Just had to.
And may I add something too?
Please.
I have done some research on this in Hong Kong. My previous institution, we had Hotel Icon. So we asked Hotel Icon management to put together their comp set. So they did primary and secondary comp set. Then we did the same thing with customers. We asked customers, and competitive sets were maybe 70-80% similar, but they were not identical.
Exactly.
Actually.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes, go on.
Another question. So
Yes.
we are talking about segments
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
So a practical question: how many segments can you actually handle?
Oh my God. So each spreadsheet is a different segment.
Yeah, but how many can a hotel handle? How many? What is normal number
I
of
don't know.
segments?
Yes, Heidi, thank you.
I guess that's the million-dollar question, right? And because the nature of the segmentation in hospitality is archaic, to be at best, I think what you need to look at is we need to shift into customer personas, like what Pallavi said earlier, right? I think if you, in order to understand your customers, if you spend time and effort in defining customer personas for your properties, and you come up with 4 to 5, start with 4 to 5. So in a corporate environment, and anyone familiar with design thinking? Do you do design thinking? Okay, we're gonna do a masterclass on this. It is super important, it is super interesting. What you do is you design personas around extreme users. So what is the extreme user of a corporate traveler? And that is what you design for. So he's the one who needs the gym, who needs a personal trainer. You go for extreme users. In design thinking, you go for extreme solutions because by definition, you will hit everything in between the extremes. So go for the corporate, the conference, the family, the thing, and create personas because that will also tremendously help your marketing team.
That sounds fantastic with those personas, but what about the popular discounted rate segment?
Well, segmentation...
How do you rate that here?
Segmentation is not customers. We're talking about audiences here. And that is the big issue we've got with our market segmentation in hospitality, right? Because we talk about buyer profiles, we do not talk about individuals. So we need to push the envelope in the industry. So what we're doing in some of the, from a strategic point of view, we're actually pulling it apart. So you have to have, unfortunately, our our RMSs are optimizing segments. They don't optimize customers. So which is a problem.
But you could still add a customer segment in the PMS.
It doesn't exist at this moment in time.
Well, you have
It's
the
in the CRM
field.
you
have the
have, yeah.
field in the PMS. You could add that.
I'm not sure. Not every PMS has that. It's not as standardized as it.
All of them have a segment.
A market segment, but not a customer segment. But not a customer segment. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Audience, sorry. Coffee outside, sorry. Okay, back to the spreadsheet. Sorry. So no, what Anders said about these being more specific, could not agree more. Yeah, definitely it should be more specific, and I hope you do that when you're doing it. The whole customer segmentation, market segmentation, you know where to find Heidi, you know where to find Anders. Chat with them. Outside the purview of this course, unfortunately, we could be here for a month. Yeah? Okay. So have all of you understood how to look at attributes? So again, look at it from your customer's perspective. What is most important? Honestly, whether you put 20 here, 23, 25, 27, that doesn't matter. It's approximate. It's just what is more important for them. So if you would set this up, it all has to add up to 100, right? Guest rooms, location, and restaurants are the most important. That's why they get 20. Then after that, slightly less important is pool, so 15. Then is service and fitness center, and finally lobby. So that's how you break it down. You don't have to know, oh my God, is it a 23 or a 22 or a 21? It's just, this is how you logically just think through what is the most important to what is the least important. Yeah? Okay. So we've talked about how to assign weights. And finally, you need to rate your competition. Yeah? So, and I'll show you how to do that on the sheet in a couple of seconds, but I want to explain to you. Your hotel is 0. If your competition is better, it's +1 to +3. If it's worse, it's -1 to -3. Obviously, +3 is hugely better, +1 is better. 0.5 is marginally better. Yeah? You understand how to do that? So it's again not the exact number. I'm not expecting when you do this that you get 0.43, 0.798. It doesn't have to be that specific. It's the approximate values that you put in. Again, look at your TripAdvisor, look at Google, look at OTAs to see what your guests' opinions are about your customers as well, right? Not just about yourself. To come up with your attributes, what are they saying about your customers? What are they saying about, what are they saying, about your competitors? Yeah? Ask, do your guest reviews match your view of your competitors? Extremely important because, again, remember, you are doing this sheet from the perspective of a guest. Okay, so do they match? Have your guest perceptions changed over time? And what is the customer's NPS score? Does anyone know what NPS is? Net promoter? Yeah? Promoters less detractors? So again, just think about that. Always rate from your guest's perspective, not your own. Yeah? So now I'm going to go back to the sheet for a minute. So we filled all this in, and here come the ratings. So let's run through one line so you understand how it's done. So the information on the competitors is picked up, number of rooms, room rate. So guest rooms, which account for, 20%, City Hotel is a lot better than you, right? They got a +2. Remember, you are 0. +1 is slightly better. +2 is a lot better. +3 is way better, right? So let's look down here. Lakefront Lodge on location is a lot worse than you, -2, right? So again, what you need to do is, this is something, again, a very useful exercise to come up with, to do along with your teams, and having Google, TripAdvisor, etc. all open. Yeah, so accordingly, so look at this. Royal Towers restaurant is like miles ahead of you. They get a +3, right? So that's how you will fill in the ratings, and overall, you will get something called an overall quality score. That is, for those of you who enjoy statistics, a weighted average of the ratings. Yeah? It basically is the weighted average of the ratings, which means it multiplies the rating by the impact that the rating has. So the percentages. Okay? Easy to fill? Possible to do? Yes? Okay, so let's go down. Now, based on this, and this is what the important part is, it nicely gives you a little bit of a graph, right? You are front and center, right in the middle, your Hotel Grand, the orange one. Region A, yeah? Region A, top corner here. Properties in this region are not a threat. Why? Because they're more expensive than you, right? They're more expensive, and they have lesser attributes than you. So Hotel Grand doesn't really care about Lakefront Lodge, what Lakefront Lodge and Seaside. They're not really a threat to you because they're more expensive and they offer less attributes that are important for your guests of that target market. Make sense? Region B, up there. Properties in this region may or may not be a threat. Why? Because they are more expensive, but they also have better attributes. So they got more things, so you're not sure. Your guest may choose to spend a little more and stay there because they are more expensive on the average than you are, but they are offering the guest more value as well from what the guest perceives as important. Region C, down there, these are ones to think about. These are definitely a threat because they're less expensive than you are. Yeah? And they have more attributes than you do. So they're offering more value to the guest for a lower price. Right? So that's one that could definitely be a threat for you. So now either you need to work on lowering your price or increasing your attributes. Right? So it's food for thought. And finally, region D, These are generally not a threat because they're less expensive, yes. Also, they have lesser attribute. Andrew's favorite hotels, the generic low-cost hotel, right? They are less expensive and lesser attributes than what you have. Yeah? So this, I find, is, but honestly, so this is what you will end up once you do the comparative value assessment. Honestly, the most important part about this is doing it with your teams. It's the thinking process and the talking that goes into it, step by step. Who are your competitors? What attributes are important? Doing the research. And then once you end up on a graph like this, you could, in that sense, see maybe, family hotel as well. They have a lot fewer and they are very close in price. So I really don't care about them. But Royal Tower, they are much cheaper. Their distance to how much less expensive they are is more than their distance to the number of attributes they have. There's slightly more attributes and they are less expensive. Let's see how we could align ourselves better with what our guests are looking for. Yeah? And then personally, I would study that property, see what are the attributes that they are offering that our guests want. So let's look at that. So what did we call it? Royal Tower here, right? Royal Tower is the one which has the restaurant, which is significantly better than that. And around 20%, we've said that restaurant weights around 20% out of the total 100%. So it has a significant impact. So definitely us either working on price, so lowering our price down, or working on improving our restaurant in the way, and like what Anders said, this just said restaurant. It needs to be a lot more specific in real terms for it to be a real attribute. Is to work on that would make a lot of sense. Any questions? Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Question, comment sort
Yes.
of thing. So you can adjust the price.
Yes, of course.
So you can do that immediately. So that's a very short-term thinking. That and the improving attributes, it's more long-term.
More long-term.
Could you expand on that a little bit? What actions should you actually take, and what?
Okay, so a few more things come in here, and I'll answer that from. Are you below your RGI? Do you need to up your business? If you're doing okay, it's for you to be aware. You may not need to get that extra demand, right? So that's important. Because if you drop your price, yes, definitely your demand will go up. But do you actually even need the extra demand? It's food for thought. So that's what I was saying. But yes, definitely playing with your price is immediate, something you can do immediately. But again, sometimes playing with your price is not that easy. If you have corporate contracts out there, if you have group rates that you booked in advance, you have other commitments which are contracted, and you drop your price, you're going to get a lot of negative pushback. Yeah? So maybe it makes more sense that the next time you do renovation is to do something with your restaurant. That's how I would look at it. So I'm sorry, being in this space, there's never a yes and no. It's very specific to each individual property, to be honest. Okay.
Can I add a question?
Yes, please.
So, and maybe just a general comment, but so we've been talking about doing this assessment and looking at all of the details of everything. How often do you recommend that hotels do this? And should it be done also by seasonality? Because I can see where some of these things might change based on the seasonality of the property as well.
Definitely. So as a rule of thumb, I used to do this once a year. And I would do different seasons, all market segments, et cetera, once a year. I would actually even do it by room type, because you would have different competition for your different room types. But at the minimum, if that seems too overwhelming, do it for your largest market segment for their most used room type, right? At the minimum, that's the base you should be doing. But I would do it once a year, actually before we did budget. That was when I did it, so. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes?
Nope.
How many attributes do you recommend?
So this spreadsheet is made for like, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think more than that, also you get into what you call analysis paralysis. Gets hard to do. So I would then maybe combine a couple of attributes. So maybe not separate restaurant service and restaurant restaurant menu, but combine it with the value of the restaurant. So you could combine them together. But I think more than 7, to be honest, because if you have things that go into 3% important, 2% important, I mean, it's just, you could go on for days. So I think what I like about this template, 7 competitors, 7 attributes. Now, is 7 the right number? I don't know. May or may not be. Would 8 be better? Possibly. Would 6 be better? Possibly. But it's a good starting point to give you an estimate. There are a couple of times when I have used this template and 2 of my attributes have been empty with obviously 0%. So you could do 4 or 5, anything up to 7.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. That was a good question. Anyone else? No other questions? Everyone agrees. Everyone's already doing their value assessment. Yeah? Well, I think that's all. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the session. You can find me around. If you have any questions around competitive value assessment, any thoughts, any feedback, please do share that. And I'm available while we have, I think we have tea now, if I'm not mistaken, right? We're breaking for morning tea, so I'm around. So if you guys have any questions that you did not ask, please definitely come up and chat. Thank you.